This is a Black Nouveau web exclusive. Reggie Jackson, the head griot for America's Black Holocaust Museum, joined us on Juneteenth to discuss the importance of that day.
June 19th is a day that in our African American community we celebrate as the day a group of individuals in Galveston, Texas found out about the Emancipation Proclamation. It was actually 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Lincoln, but in that part of Texas, in Galveston, the word Emancipation Proclamation was kept from the enslaved population. And so a group of Union soldiers came into Galveston on June 19th and let them know that Lincoln had issued the Emancipation Proclamation and that they were given their freedom. Well, it's a very interesting story. People kind of know about the Emancipation Proclamation, but they haven't read the Emancipation Proclamation. You know, there were 15 slaving states, but only 11 broke away to form the Confederate States of America. And when Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation as a war measure to gain support internationally for the Union war effort, and also to give blacks, for the first time in American history, permission to use guns to fight for themselves, it was a big deal. But Lincoln, when he wrote the Emancipation Proclamation, he left those 4 slaving states that didn't break away and form the Confederacy. Missouri, Kentucky, Delaware, and Maryland were exempted from the Emancipation Proclamation, and also the state of Tennessee was exempted because most of that state was in control of the Union Army. There were also some places around New Orleans that were exempted, and several counties in Virginia that were exempted. So I did the math, and I discovered that if you look at the particular number of people who were enslaved at that time, only about 79% were actually freed with the language of the Emancipation Proclamation. December 18th, 1865, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution was passed. And typically what we've been told in our history classes is that that was the amendment that ended slavery in the United States. But most people, once again, they haven't read what it says. And the Section 1 of that basically says that slavery and involuntary servitude are illegal except as punishment for a crime you've been duly convicted of. And this was really borrowing the language of states that had issued gradual abolition years before. They used the same language. And so what that meant was that it gave people in the South an opportunity to create a new form of slavery, but just call it something different. And this new form of slavery would take the name of convict lease system. And the way the convict lease system worked was that there were laws written specifically aimed at criminalizing the behavior of black people so that they could be arrested, charged, convicted instantaneously, and then sold to businesses, to whether it be big mine companies, you know, cotton plantations, whomever wanted free labor, they would be sold to those people then, and then they would have to work for free to pay off that debt. And that system stayed in place from the 1860s all the way through the 1930s, when the federal government finally stepped in and said this system is violating the 13th Amendment, and they ended that system. So Juneteenth has been a big celebration in our community going back to the 1800s. It used to be a much larger celebration back in the 1800s. But here in Milwaukee, one of the great traditions in Milwaukee is that we celebrated it every year consistently for decade after decade. Milwaukee has traditionally had one of the largest Juneteenth celebrations in the country. And, you know, it's great to be out here. I come out every year to kind of help celebrate, support the businesses, support other people who are here. You know, to see something positive in our community, to see that we have something that really belongs to our community, that we can take pride in, it's always great to be here. We're celebrating the end of 246 years of enslavement of blacks, but do we still celebrate just that, or are we celebrating the freedoms that we have today? Because in many respects, those freedoms that we were given after the Civil War ended, we haven't been able to live those freedoms. And in addition to that, many other people in the country have been marginalized, disenfranchised, and they don't have those freedoms that are promised in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So I want us as Americans to kind of look at our society in a very open and honest way and ask whether or not we're living up to the ideals of the Founding Fathers and also asking, are we going to step further than the Founding Fathers by not excluding people from those freedoms? Because that's what the Founding Fathers did. They excluded people from those freedoms. And I want to live in a society where nobody is excluded from those freedoms. And that's what I advocate for on a regular basis. And I think this is a good opportunity for us to talk about that issue in a broader scope, to look at how a lot of people in our country outside of African American community have been disenfranchised, discriminated against, and have not gotten those liberties. We need to expand the discussion and invite more people of other communities to come to Juneteenth to talk about those topics.